Resume recording. Okay, sorry about that. And now we talk a little bit about electrons. We know what I hope we know what valence electrons are. Those are the outermost electrons in an atom. They're the ones that do the chemical bonding. Okay. Molecules. A molecule is a group of two or more atoms with electron interactions, right? And one important property of a molecule is its polarity. Basically, when two atoms form a bond, sometimes the electrons shared in the bond aren't equally shared, meaning one atom, because it has more protons, because it has because it's smaller, it'll pull the electrons closer to it. And as a result, that atom gains a partial negative charge. The other atom that has its electrons pulled away from it gains a partial positive charge. And one important force that has to do with this polarity is hydrogen bonding, which we'll get into more detail in just a bit. And in terms of metabolism, there's really two broad categories of reactions. Catabolic and anabolic reactions. That's just catabolic is just you break things down. Anabolic is just you're kind of putting in energy to build molecules. Yeah. And that's chapter 2. Now we move on to chapter 3. So this is about how water is essential for life. Now, where do the properties of water come from? Water is special because it is very polar. Oxygen has a very high electronegativity, which, like we just talked about, it will pull bonded electrons closer to it, so it gains a partially negative charge. The hydrogens, because their electrons are pulled away from it, gain a partial positive charge. And this allows for hydrogen bonds to form. Hydrogen bonds, as you can see from this diagram, is just the attraction between a partially positive hydrogen atom of one water molecule and the partially negative oxygen atom of another molecule. So the opposite charges attract, and this is one of the strongest intermolecular forces. Intermolecular. So what does hydrogen bonding do for water? What properties does it give? Here are some important ones. Cohesion. Cohesion is a tendency of water to stick to other water molecules. So if we go back to the previous slide, you see how the positive and negative charges cause the water there's an attractive force between two water molecules, and that's really important in terms of the biology as a whole. One interesting fact is that these hydrogen bonds are so strong when a chain of water molecules is pulled up from the roots to the leaves of a tree. It has a tensile strength of a strand of steel of the same diameter. So these hydrogen bonds are incredibly strong. And adhesion. Adhesion is a tendency of water molecules to stick to other substances. So other things like the walls of xylem. Xylem is just vascular tissue in a plant. It's a part of the plant. Other things in nature have inherent positive or negative charges. And because water has partial positive and partial negative charges, it can form hydrogen bonds with the inherent charges in other substances and cause it to stick to them. And finally, because water is bonded very tightly, it has a high surface tension. So if you've ever if you've been to a pool, you slap the water, it doesn't break immediately. It kind of hurts, right? That's the high surface tension in play. Other properties of water. Water has a high specific heat. What is specific heat? Specific heat is, the strict definition is the amount of energy needed to raise 1 gram of a substance by 1 degree Celsius. Angela, could you type that out? The reason that water has a high specific heat is because it's also because of hydrogen bonding. When a substance heats up, when it gains thermal energy, I'm so sorry. When a substance heats up, when it gains thermal energy, what happens is the molecules start to move faster, right? But in the case of water, before the molecules can start to move faster, they're held in place by their hydrogen bonds. And in order for thermal energy to make it hotter, the hydrogen bonds need to be broken first. And that requires a lot of energy. Actually, the specific heat of water is 1 calorie. That's the definition of a calorie. Water also has high heat of vaporization for the same reason. In order for water molecules to get moving so fast that they evaporate. Oh yeah, sorry, I just omitted them. I'm still getting used to looking at 2 screens. I'm really sorry if I didn't admit you when you joined the waiting. Okay, back to this. For the same reason that water has high specific heat, it also has high heat of vaporization. This specific heat is very useful to stabilize the temperatures of different bodies of water. Like around the coastline, it's usually a lot cooler than if you go further inland, and that's because the ocean is absorbing the heat. Another property, ice floats. If you've ever gotten a drink with ice, you already know this. This is important because if water got denser as it froze, actually let me restart this. Usually when substances freeze, they get more dense because the atoms, they start moving less and they get packed closer together. But in the case of water, when water freezes, the atoms they do stop moving a lot more. But because water has hydrogen bonds, the water molecules lock in place, right? They lock in place, and as a result, the individual water molecules are actually farther apart than they're actually farther apart than in liquid water. And this allows water to float. The importance of this is, imagine if ice sunk when it froze. Let's say the surface of a lake freezes. If the ice sinks, it goes down to the bottom, and eventually the entire body of water would freeze over. Everything would turn to ice. But because ice floats, the surface layer of ice on a body of water actually acts as an insulator for all the water underneath, and keeps that water liquid. Yep. This one's really important. It dissolves polar substances. So anything with a charge can get pulled apart by water, because again, water has partial positives and partial negatives. If you look at this, for example, this diagram of salt in water, this is how salt actually dissolves. Water molecules will surround. Let's look at this sodium molecule. Sodium has a positive charge, and oxygen in water has a partially negative charge. As a result, you see how all the oxygen, my bad. All the oxygens are facing the sodium, right? That's called a hydration shell. And that's how things actually dissolve. Dissolving is basically water molecules forming a layer around each charged molecule. Yeah, I think I'm going pretty fast. If I'm going too fast, please, you can DM me or something. Or if you need clarification. Yeah, but this should be pretty, go away, Derek. And now we get to the topic of hydrophilicity versus hydrophobicity. Hydrophobicity. If an object is, if we look here, these sodium and chloride atoms they have charges, and as a result, we can think of them as like very polar. Remember, polar means that something has a partial charge. It's pure water evaporate. Oh, I'm gonna admit Sonia. Ivan's not coming. He ditched us. Does pure water evaporate faster than impure water or different solutions? I would say yes. Hold on. I would say pure water does evaporate faster because there's less things for it to hold on to. What? What do you mean? Am I tossing? Well, well, yes. Well, huh? Wait, Derek, what are you saying? Oh, oh, okay. Then I guess if pure water evaporates slower. Sounds on. Now we get to hydrophilicity versus hydrophobicity. A substance that is nonpolar, which means it has no charges. A substance with no charges will not dissolve in water. It is hydrophobic because the water molecules will form hydrogen bonds with each other and not interact with that hydrophobic substance, simply because it doesn't have any charges for it to attach to. That means that the hydrophobic substances won't have a shell of water around them. They won't dissolve. They won't dissolve, and they won't dissolve, and yeah. Now, hydrophilic substances are, oh my god, shut up, Derek, go away. Hydrophilic substances are substances that have some kind of charge that allows it to, it just likes water. It will dissolve in water, like how the ions are. Okay, make sure you guys note this down. Solute concentration. This is going to be important when we talk about acid-base things on the next slide. Solute concentration is depicted by moles of solute per liter. We all know what moles are, right? What's a mole? Someone tell me. Not the animal, like as in chemistry. Bruh. Yeah. It's a specific number that denotes how many a certain number of molecules. And to denote solute concentration, we generally use brackets. So the brackets around hydrogen is a solute concentration of hydrogen. Yeah. I should cold call people. Okay, you guys get ready. Okay, acid. Shut up, Derek. Go away, Derek. Acids and bases. An acid is a substance that donates hydrogens to a aqueous solution. So it gives up hydrogens into solution. A base, yeah, he did. A base is a substance that takes up hydrogen, and as a result, there's less hydrogens in solution. In general, hydrogens aren't like free floating in an aqueous solution. They usually bind to a water and form a hydronium. And now, what is pH? The actual formula for pH is a negative log of the concentration of hydrogen. What does that really mean? So let's say that in a solution, you have, let's say that in a solution, the solute concentration of hydrogen is 10 to the power of -3. That means there's 10 to the power, there's 1,000 moles of hydrogen per liter of water. That means that that solution has a pH of 3. I'm gonna kick you there. You watch yourself. Another interesting thing, the concentration of hydrogen and the concentration of hydroxide is multiplied equal to 10 to the power of -14. So what that means is that if your hydrogen concentration is 10 to the power of -3, then your hydroxide concentration will be 10 to the power of -11. So, okay, let me quiz you guys. Let's say you have you have a solution with a pH of 5. What is the hydroxide concentration of the solution? I don't need answers from you, Derek. Yeah, well, -9, but and then there are certain things, yeah. Is there a conversion between whole pH numbers and the 10 to the power of X thing? Yeah. So you see, if you have a solution of the pH of 3, that means that the concentration of hydrogen ions is 10 to the -3. It's the negative log of the concentration of hydrogen. If you don't know what that means, is basically you just whatever power hydrogen. Let's say the concentration of hydrogen is 10 to the power of -2. That means the solution has a pH of 2. If it's 10 to the power of -4, that means it has a pH of 4. And usually, does that make sense? Usually in, yeah, basically. Usually in biological systems, and like enzymes, everything is very pH sensitive. I'm gonna kick there. Enzymes are very pH sensitive, so a slight change in pH can be very devastating. Like if your blood pH increases by 0.5, you die. So there are certain molecules like sodium bicarbonate, not sodium bicarbonate, but just bicarb, that can either take up hydrogens or release hydrogens depending on whether or not, depending on whether the pH is too high or too low. And now we're on chapter 4. Carbon formations. Hydrocarbons they're very important, but very self-explanatory. they're just formations of only hydrogen and carbon. What's the study of hydrogen and what's the study of carbon called? Hydrogen and carbon. Oh. Hmm? Yeah, okay. Exactly. Okay. Hold on. And there are, so obviously the only things in your body is not just carbon and hydrogen. There are a lot of the whole Chomps thing. There's 4 more major atoms, major elements. So where do they fit in? They're in, a lot of them are part of functional groups. These groups they're attached to hydrocarbons and give them special properties. So like if you attach a hydroxide to a 2-carbon molecule, that makes ethanol. And that ethanol is polar. So functional groups give things shape, they give things properties. Here are some, so this is a diagram in Campbell's. I highly recommend. We couldn't fit everything on this slide, but you should know roughly the names of each functional group and maybe their polarity or what they impart to the molecule. In general, what you need to know is hydroxyl, carbono, carboxyl, amino, phosphate. These 5 are polar functional groups. Methyl is the only non-polar one strictly, but sulfhydryl is slightly polar. It's like barely considered polar, if at all. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is isomers. If you've taken OChem, I'm sure you know all about these. I took OChem last year. An isomer is a molecule that's made up of the same atoms that an isomer is a molecule that is made up of the same atoms, but they have different conformations. Because of the way that the atoms are arranged, the molecules look different. So first one is called a structural isomer. A structural isomer is exactly what it sounds like. So the difference between a pentane and a 2-methylbutane is that the carbons are branching, but it still has the same number of atoms, the same type and same number of atoms. And the next isomer is called cis-trans. Basically, if you think about a bond in a molecule, if it's a single bond, the atom can rotate as it likes. The molecules can rotate around that bond. Yeah, but in a double bond, it's a stronger bond, so it's less flexible, and the molecules are locked in rotation. So a cis isomer is a version of the molecule where the two groups, like these 2 axes, they can represent almost anything, but they're on the same side of the double bond. So in this case, they're both above the double bond, right? A trans isomer is the case where they're on opposite sides. I don't really know how else to explain that, but I think the diagram is pretty self-explanatory. Finally, enantiomers. These are molecules that they're structurally identical. They have the same atoms, but they're kind of in a mirror plane. So like if you take your hand, right? Both hands have 5 fingers. They have thumb and 4 fingers, right? But they're not the same. They're kind of imposed. You can superimpose them on each other. And so like if you if you put them on a mirror plane, they would look identical. That's all I have for slides. Why don't we take a quick 3-minute break and then we'll get back to, we'll do some practice problems or questions. I think I went through that really fast. Oh. What were the main points of the first and second chapter? Okay, I close this slide. Let me open it back. Oh, let me open it back up. I think chapter 2 was mostly just review, introducing you to like the different types of reactions, molecules, basic like chemistry things. It's literally, the book is literally called Campbell. Okay. The second chapter, to summarize, it talks about how the hydrogen bonding of water gives it special properties and how those properties make it important to life as a whole. Does that make sense? Okay. Derek, why are you here? You sure is. Derek. Bro, cows. Bozo. Unmute.
What do you want?
So distracting.
Dude, I'm not taking this from a freaking like
Shut
microbe. What's your name again? It's like Rhizarian or something. I'm not taking this from a Rhizarian, dude.
Right.
Okay, wait, I have one thing I want to talk about. So, Anthony, can you go back to the acids and bases slide?
Sure. Give me just one. Acids and bases. Okay. Can you see?
Okay, sorry, I can just talk like this. So basically, since acids donate protons and bases can like take the protons, so afterwards what we call those are like conjugate acids and bases. So when a proton gets donated, that like second atom, so like the hydroxide in this case, the product, it's called the conjugate base, because like the hydroxide could potentially take another hydrogen, which makes it kind of basic. And then here the hydronium is called the conjugate acid, since it could potentially give another hydrogen, which gives it the property of an acid. So yeah, that's pretty relevant too.
Yeah, that's some good vocab to know. Conjugate acids and bases. Okay. I think we can come back now. Okay. Shoot me a message if you're back. We're gonna start up again. Huh. Yo, yes. Afterwards. Okay. Seems like a lot of people are back. If they're not, oh well. Okay. Can everyone can see the questions? Questions? Oh. Yeah. Let's start with the first one. Thales is prided as the first Greek philosopher and postulated that water is the unifying principle. Which of the following is a property of water? Yeah, DM me the answers. That's just usable for you, Jonathan. Sometimes it. Shut up, Derek. Right. I'll give you like a minute and a half to think this over. Okay. I've gotten a lot of answers. Nah, you're fine. Um, you don't want to be questions, but now you want. Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So the answer for this is D. Hydroxide is the conjugate base of water. That was what I was just talking about. So yeah, we covered that. I literally said hydroxide is the conjugate base. But we can go through all of them one by one. So for A, water is least dense at 0 degrees Celsius. That's not true because although ice at 0 Celsius is less dense than water, like its liquid state, its vapor state is obviously the least dense. So that's at like 100 degrees Celsius. And then that's yeah. So for option B, linear hydrogen bonds involving involving water are stronger than covalent bonds. That's also not true because covalent bonds are chemical bonds, while hydrogen bonds are intramolecular intermolecular forces.
Hydrogen is inter.
Okay, so any chemical bond will be stronger than intermolecular forces. And so water has a lower heat capacity than methanol. I know methanol has an OH group. So okay, you can
methanol does not form methanol. Okay, who knows? I know some people took OChem. Who knows what methanol looks like? What's what is it made of? Hold on. Pull up a picture.
They've
Give me
said
one second.
CH3OH, which
Mhm.
is right.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not looking at chat right now. I'm pulling up. Okay. Let me send this in group chat. Wait.
Let's draw
Oh,
it.
I can draw. Wait.
No
Right.
way.
So you have carbon. Oh my God. And a hydrogen. And a hydrogen. And a hydrogen. I'm so sorry, guys. And a hydroxyl. So,
Nice.
the reason that water has a really high heat capacity is because it forms really strong it forms really strong hydrogen bonds. The reason water is very polar. So the more polar a substance, usually if it has hydrogens, it will have a higher specific heat. In this case, methanol has a carbon attached to it, this carbon, right? Oh, this carbon. And this carbon makes the entire molecule very nonpolar. It makes it more nonpolar, I'm sorry. So because it's more nonpolar, it will have a lower heat capacity. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna assume it does. D is the correct answer because we just went over it. And E, water boils at a higher temperature than blood plasma. What? Oh. Blood plasma. Wait, Derek. Oh, you should help. Wait, why? I'm confused because blood plasma is just water with a lot of dissolved proteins. So
Yeah.
yeah. So why did you
Yeah.
say before that water with solutes will have a higher?
Oh yeah. So basically, like, there's this thing in chem called boiling point elevation. So basically, when you add anything to water, it'll increase the boiling. Like if you add any solute to any solvent, it'll generally increase the boiling point because you're basically like decreasing the solution's vapor pressure. So you need a higher temperature so that you can boil the solution. Like just like if you think about like trying to boil salt water, it's a lot harder than boiling water.
Hmm.
And
Wait, that
blood
is
is
what I
like
said.
basically salt water.
That was what I said.
Right?
Never mind.
No.
Um,
You said like it bonds to stuff.
yeah. Well, it's the same principle, Derek.
I'm not taking this from a rice area.
Okay, shut. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Actually, yes, it does. I'm sorry. I think bonding in water gives a higher melting point. Boiling. Oh my. I'm sorry. If there's something dissolved in water, it will have a higher boiling point. I can make questions about the slides and then I'll ask you guys. Here. Outer coach. What is cohesion? DM me, please. Just quiz you on the things that we went over. Yep, basically, when water molecules stick together. Water sticks to itself. What is adhesion? Adhesion between water molecules. I mean, water water's adhesion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Water sticks to other substances. Why can water undergo adhesion? And mhm, yeah. So some things are inherently negative and the positive, yeah, because water is polar, the positive side of water will hydrogen bond to the negative atoms. Okay. Why does water have high specific heat? All right. Type this out. Yeah. Hydrogen bonds. So let me go over this again. Specific heat. Specific heat is the energy required to raise 1 gram of a substance by 1 degree Celsius. Oh, I sent that to Allison. I'm sorry. Derek. Specific heat is the energy required to raise 1 gram of a substance by 1 degree Celsius. The reason that water has high specific heat is, yeah. Oh, right. People. Angela, you should admit people. No. When you heat something up, it gains thermal energy. And like the definition of thermal energy is things move faster, right? Not the definition, but yeah, things move faster. But water is kind of locked in place by their hydrogen bond. So in order for water molecules to start moving faster, you first need to break the hydrogen bonds. But because these bonds are so strong, it requires a lot of energy to break them and allow water to move faster. Cool. What is, all right, I'm gonna cold call someone. Miss Simrat, why are molecules polar?
Molecules are polar if they have uneven distribution of electrons.
Right. And what's the quality an atom has that determines how much it pulls on electrons?
Electronegativity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let me look at. How does water dissolve substances?
You still talking to me?
Oh, sorry. That just to everyone. Mm-hmm. I'm getting all the answers that I've gotten so far are correct. Okay. Okay, I'll go over this again. Yeah, most of you are basically correct. It's about forming the hydrogen shell around a molecule. Let me zoom in. Oh, that's not zooming in. Notice how in this case, all the positive parts of water are attracted to the chloride atom. That's how water molecules will pull chlorides from this mass into solution and surround them so that they can't reform a salt. Okay. what? No, I got it. What is a nonpolar functional group? I think this is just, yeah. Looks like the OChem kids got it. Okay. I probably need to show it to you. Yeah. Methyl groups. I'll show you the screen again of all the functional groups. Methyl and sulfhydryl are like the least polar ones. Methyl is nonpolar. Sulfhydryl is barely polar. Look at the bolded names. Run them through your head. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I'm need you co. Sorry, we're trying to figure something out right now. Why does water become less dense as it freezes? Yes, hydrogen bond moment. When water molecules settle down and stop moving, the hydrogen bonds lock them in place far away from each other. So instead of being clustered together, they're actually spread apart. Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't find the other. I can't find the last thing that we're supposed to look at, but it's not that important. So I think we're just gonna end class 5 minutes early. I'll make sure to have more problems next time.
Okay, thank you for coming. Next time we'll be talking about a lot of other OChem stuff like bigger macromolecules and cell components. So that's interesting because there'll be more problems on that actually like that we can pull from the USABO past exams. So we'll be doing that a lot more. Yeah. Okay, have a good day. Okay.
Dude, that was on me.
No, it's okay.
I
It's
like
okay.
actually panicked. I feel like
No,
I went through the slides way too fast. Like not in terms of just like thinking about pacing, but more so I don't think they understood like most of it.
Did I kick Derek? Hi.
No, don't kick.
Oh.
No,
He left. I didn't do
Derek.
it. I didn't do it.
Derek,
Okay,
no.
okay, no. The thing is, like, we could have done a lot more problems, but like